What is up, guys? Teddy Cornwell here. Welcome to the Underdog Talk. Oh, this side. The world's most underrated podcast on earth, and I'm already stuttering on my words. I mean, we got the big fella, Phil, the Jamaican Tank, on the podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
Great, man. First of all, I'd like to thank you for having me on, Teddy. I appreciate it. It's an honor and a privilege to be on here. And yeah, I'm doing great.
Hell yeah. Let us talk bodybuilding, the thing that you are so good at. I mean, big year for you, Phil. 2023 was your year. And when I say your year, I'm going back to maybe the summer when the Orlando Pro happened. Was it
July 4th? Yeah, 4th of July weekend.
Ooh, July 4th. So July 4th is a good one for you. Obviously, 2023 Orlando Pro champion. A very stacked lineup, obviously, to qualify for the Mr. O. I mean, what was the prep like for, this year? And did you do anything different from previous years to get your first professional win on the prestigious Tampa Pro, obviously, where you hail and reside in the Florida area?
Yeah, well, we didn't do, Blue Taylor is my coach, and Blue coaches a lot of people, even Big Beef Stew. Listen, the big thing was, coming off of the last year, which was a very disappointing year, coming from the year before when I took second to Ian and battled Kuklos and Ian again in Texas. Yeah, last year was just a very bad year. I didn't take a good off season. I didn't let my body rest. Coming into the 2023, we had about 6 months of off season. So the body was well rested. And Blue took me on last year towards the tail end of the year for Tampa, where I took 4th, and then Texas. We didn't do too well. I think we took about 8th in Texas. But he was getting to know my body. I mean, that was my first year working with him. Now he's starting to, we haven't honestly super nailed it yet. I think we will next year. But for what we put together this year, it was pretty successful. It's all about just resting the body, which we're doing now once again, and just putting gas on the pedal and moving forward.
And I think you really touched on something, Phil, where Derek Lunsford obviously talked about him and Hani kind of taking that time to get their body to understand each other. And I think the bond between coach and athlete takes a little while for the coach to understand the athlete to understand the coach. And I think once you click on that, it's scary. And for you, sir, obviously just the start of your coaching, your relationship with him. And once you guys get that dialed in, it's going to be scary, Underdog Talk. I mean, Phil will be here to play, obviously. And speaking of Orlando, I said off air, that must be your lucky place you return back to Orlando for the Super Bowl of bodybuilding, the Mr. O, and you make history. I mean, you make history in the sport of bodybuilding. And Underdog Talk, what I'm talking about is, Phil, you are the first 49-year-old in the Open. I mean, that is insane. That is insane. I mean, what was your first Mr. O like? The emotions,
like? I can honestly tell you, I think during Romania, the Mr.Olympia kind of prepared me for this, like a big stage. Even though the Mr.Olympia is a bigger stage, I'm a wrestler. You know what I mean? I wrestled in the regional finals and made it to the States back in my young days, and then I was 10th in the nation as a wrestler in college. So I can take on, I know how to handle stress and stuff like that. I mean, granted, no matter what, you're going to get some type of stress. It was my first time there. Honestly, tell you the truth, I think the nerves hit me more for Saturday night more than Friday night, but I handled it pretty well. I was pretty stoked, man, to be around these top athletes of the world. Derek, I know him. We both live in the same area. And seeing Samson, I haven't seen him since I competed against him back in Boston Pro a couple of years ago. So it was the bodybuilding family and the pros. They made me feel welcome. Everybody was welcome because I think it was 5 of us It was our Olympia Pro debut.
Yeah, I had no clue it was. So it was you.
It was me, Justin Shire,
Yep.
Ross Flanagan. There's two more.
Was Hassan Mustafa's? Was this his first one?
No, Hassan Mustafa has been there quite a few times. I think he's been there at least 3-4 times.
Okay.
Oh, one of I can't remember his name. Brent. He couldn't make it.
Oh, Brett Wilkins.
Yeah, Brent.
Yeah.
He's forward. Is one more.
Okay. Shout out to that fifth person. And obviously, yeah, I mean, talk about just a nice, complete lineup. And I mean, you know, what did you learn about yourself in this prep for both, obviously, you know, the Mr. O and obviously the Masters O, as we'll kind of combine that prep into one, you know, category. And what did you learn about yourself as a bodybuilder and a human being, Phil, in this prep, in, you know, your most important year of your bodybuilding career so far?
Yes. Honestly, to tell you the truth, you know, I've been at this for a long time. I mean, my first show was back in 1999. So I've been at this for a very long time. Of course, you know, several years ago, I had an 8-year break from bodybuilding. I think that's what preserved my body, why I can go this long. It's not easy. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. As you get older, you know, it's much harder. Your body's not gonna click. Like, it's not clicking like it was clicking back when I was, you know, 40, 42, 41. It's as you start getting to the 40 to 49s and the 50s, man, we're open. Now, there's a lot of great master competitors in the masters, but to be at the elite level in the open is very difficult as you get older. I mean, anybody can tell you. I mean, I don't even think, I was talking to Boston Mass and quite a few people, I don't even think anybody's going to be able to do that, you know, to continue to get better as you get older. And then you're stacking up against these remarkable athletes. I mean, it's definitely not easy. But what I've noticed is with the preps, they don't get easier. They get much tougher. And then I have to dig really deep, you know what I mean, and motivate myself inside and out. I got a great wife. She motivates me and keeps me going. But yeah, it's definitely not as easy as it was, I would say, not even 2-3 years ago. It is much more difficult, but it's much more rewarding once I get to that finish line.
100%. And I think, you know, we had Kamal on the podcast last year, who's a 212. Dude, he is a champ. I almost said runner-up.
Oh, no, he took Kamal. He's another one. I mean, Kamal's 51.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. And I told Kamal, I said, how the hell are you doing this, man? I mean, Kamal is, you know, elite at such a he's competitive, and so are you, obviously. And you're only getting better, which is scary. I mean, you are defying the age limit, which I really like. And I do have to ask this question then: what is next for you, Phil? Obviously, do you plan on continuing making history? Do you have a show that you're going to qualify this year in mind, or right now is it just the off season, preparing, resting, or what's next for you, Phil?
Right now, honestly, I mean, of course, I'm going to make a defend of my title in Orlando. I think that will be the first show I do because it gives me enough time to rest, recuperate. You know, I got eight weeks I got for TRT. We got to really. It was a long season. I've been dieting from March into the Olympia. I mean, that's 8 months of just this was more brutal because normally when I do shows, it'll be Orlando, Tampa, Texas. Orlando, Tampa is right 2 weeks, and then Texas is the following week. This was the first time in my life pushing the limits of doing, because I was originally training for Puerto Rico, that got canceled, so we went into Orlando. And you got to look at, so we started prepping March for Puerto Rico. Then that got canceled. We got pushed into Orlando. Then for Romania, I had about 7 weeks before I had to get ready for that. And then for the Olympia, it was pretty much almost the same, 7-8 weeks to get ready, about 8 weeks to get ready for that. So honestly, a guy of my age, I can't speak for anybody else, which it's a lot of stress on the body. I don't know if you saw, even for Romania, I had a bad cellulitis, a bad infection. Not even 10 days out from the Romania. So And the Romania, the way my training was going after Orlando, because I was so stoked from winning Orlando, man, my training elevated, really, really elevated. And then that 10 days before, I got a cellulitis in my left thigh. And then I was on 2 very, very serious antibiotics. So if anybody knows, it messes up your microbiome. So your digestive system, everything, your gut health, everything is destroyed. So being on that, and then almost a 12-hour delay going into Romania, I was even shocked I was able to come in that type of conditioning. But my big thing was my stomach was so bloated to control the midsection with all that antibiotics, because I was off it for not even a day when I finished. So that put strain on my body. So going into the Olympia, it was a tough. Olympia was, I had to really, really push through for that. Honestly, I got to a point where, you know, I really didn't want to do the Olympia because my body was just telling me it's just beat up. Yeah. You know, so I really pushed myself, and I could have been better. You know, I wasn't bad, but I know I could have been better for the Olympia. But, you know, just with the stress level on the body and prepping for so long, you know what I mean? That was very tough. The Olympia prep was tough. And that's why I love the fact that even through the obstacles I was going through prepping for the Olympia, I still made it. I got up there with a smile on my face and did my thing, and the experience was overwhelming.
And you gotta add, you made history, Phil. You gotta add that part, man.
Yeah.
History. And our good friend Hunter Labrada makes it. I think any age that long of a prep is hard on the body. I know Hunter was doing a very long prep. He says the longest of his career, and then that makes me just appreciate what Brandon Curry did. Obviously, going to the hospital right before the day before, and still looking phenomenal, taking 4th, and just absolutely being a champion, both on the stage and off the stage. Brandon's such a good guy, and yeah, I mean, you set history, you did your thing. Now, we just had 5-time champ Oksana Grishina on the podcast, and she talked about how, you know, the atmosphere at the Olympia this year was phenomenal, electrifying. The fans were there. It looked like it was jam-packed. How was the atmosphere at the Olympia this year, Phil?
You know, with the Olympia, the big issue, I mean, the atmosphere was great, don't get me wrong. They had a little bit too much flashing lights. The lighting was a little bit distracting. Yeah. But it's too late. You know what I mean? The timing of the Olympia, the show in general was great. The crowd, Saturday night, forget it, was not one empty seat. But, you know, all of us was off for prejudging. All of us was. Because you got to look at it. The body is made to be resting and sleeping at 9 o'clock, 9:30. We got on stage at 10:30. So, of course, cortisol sets in. So everybody was off. I think Dave Palumbo made a big rant about the prejudging. Yes. But I don't see that ever changing, because Vegas at times is now going to be later, probably midnight next year. But I don't see that changing. But the show in general was ran very well. The meet the pros was that was very nice to meet a lot of my fans and do some interviews and stuff like that, and sit across from Derek, the champion, with his long line taking up the whole place. But but yeah, it was the Olympia was done well. It was done well. I just think that hopefully in the future they could get the pros up a little earlier where they're at their sharpest. Because, you know, earlier Friday I was looking. I shared 2 pictures, a front double bicep and a back double bicep, and that was hours before the show. So, you know, I mean, imagine if I was on, it was earlier, man. You know what I mean? So that's the only bad side of it is the late for us to get on, the big boys for us to get on. Other than that, the Olympia, it was great.
100%. And shout out to our guy Dan Solomon, who was on the podcast and who's a huge fellow Orioles fan, for just absolutely taking the Olympia to the next level, and such a great production this year. You know, obviously Derek does what Derek does, and that's just right. He'll have the whole crowd. I mean, now he's the Mr. O. You know, he's got to represent. And I do have to ask, adding on to that, you know, you've seen bodybuilding for a while, actually, before I was born, which is kind of crazy, Phil. I'm not trying to make you feel old out here.
No, man, it's all good.
But do you see bodybuilding going in the right direction, becoming more commercial in terms of becoming a mainstream sport?
Well, you know, back in the 90s, it was mainstream. I mean, it was on ESPN.
Yep.
Uh, do I believe it's going to ever get to that point again? No. Society just looks at bodybuilding, the pros, now the amateurs. They look at us. They look at the sport differently. If you know, if you understand what I'm saying. So the guys are so much bigger. You know, back then in the 90s, I mean, these guys probably, I hate to say, probably wouldn't even stand next to some of these guys now. I mean, just the size in general. You know, my personal opinion, if they continue to allow the pros to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, Jay Cutler nailed it on the head. He said he would have took all that size he gained and went back to where he was at his smallest and believed he was at his best. But he was chasing Ronnie Coleman because Ronnie Coleman was that man back then where everybody was trying to put on size to catch him. Now the mass monsters, the younger guys, it's getting bigger and bigger. Everybody's chasing this Olympia title, and it's great. It's a great title to achieve, but risking your health for it, no. I don't think there's no money in the world or no title could make me want to risk my life to push it. You know, with me, from I started bodybuilding, was always low, 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 low. I do just enough, and what it takes. Kamal was the same way. More is never better. I don't want to be, which I have the genetics to be, very big. Like if I don't control my eating, I can shoot up 315 pounds on off-season very easily. So my big thing is, with my age now, we're keeping my weight under 280. We don't want to get any bigger than that. So really, honestly, about 280, 278-ish. Because, you know, the heart, as you put on more muscle, your heart is working even more. That's the only downside, I believe, of the sport. And the only people can change that is the judges. When they see enough's enough, bodybuilders here and there, you know, are passing away. They're the only ones that can say, okay, we need to get back to what it is. But, you know, it's a business now. It's about making money. The crowd is coming for us mass monsters. They're coming for the open competitors. That's what they're sitting there waiting for. That's why they make us finish last, because it keeps people in the seats. So I don't know, man. I honestly, I hope it can continue to move forward in a positive direction. But I've been watching some of the NPC shows, especially here in Florida, and the super heavyweights, there used to be a lot of them, especially back when I started. You competed like, you know, 2017, 2008. 2008 was tons of super heavyweights. Now you look at these NPC shows, it's starting to die down. You see more classic physique, because a lot of people are wisening up that to be that top 10, top 12 bodybuilder in the world, you got to be able, especially open, you're going to have to push the envelope, because that's where the money is at. That's why all the 212s are now moving into the open. It's the money. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I hope and pray that, you know, down the road changes happen. But right now, I just don't see it.
You know, I like what you said. I do hope and pray also that bodybuilding continues to be a positive sport. You know, they take health into consideration. I think that's a big factor. You know, that's why so many people love Hadi. He brings such an aesthetic and beautiful physique that kind of reminds me of the old school bodybuilding where conditioning was king. You know, he's not a mass monster at all, but yet he wows everyone, and he wowed everyone this year. And you know, you were there in the best seat in the house, obviously watching the Olympia this year, and it's no secret that I'm a huge fan of Derek Lunsford, and we had him on the podcast. Shout out Derek, and he won this year in a top three that was very competitive.
Yes.
You know, anyone could have had that, I believe. Samson looked phenomenal in 2 years.
Yes. That's what I was telling Patty. I mean, you got to look at it. Samson put on a total of 40 pounds in 2 years. So 20 pounds last year. And then he put on another 20. And like I was telling Milos at the meeting, you know, I gave Samson a hug, and it was just freaking slabs of beef just on his back, you know. And you know, and that's another thing. Samson is a very highly spirited guy, man. He always has a smile on his face when he talks to you. He's full of energy, and you know, he told me, he's like, "Man, Phil, you killed it this year, man. I'm so proud of you. You did so well, you know." But once again, there's so many of these guys that I respect and love, but I just want them to stay healthy and be safe and not get caught up in the hype of being at your top game to where you push the envelope even more. That's just my only concern, you know, because I love these guys, man, especially every last one of them. Curry, I hugged him. I told him I prayed for him. That's a warrior. Let me tell you something. Most younger competitors, because Curry's 40, 41, 43, they wouldn't have done it. This takes blood and guts from like old school type of guy, you know, to be 43 years old and went through that. And his wife was basically saying, no, don't count him out, because everybody's like, oh, no, Curry's out too. And she said, no, he's not out. He's still in the show as of now. And the man showed up and he came back better Saturday night.
And got top 5. I mean,
yes.
we're acting like he didn't get a top 5 finish, and he, you know, we had Andrew Jack on the show, and he beat Andrew Jack, who I thought looked phenomenal. So I mean, shows what, you know, how bad you want something. Now I do have to ask this question. Obviously, as I said, it was so close between the top 3. I mean, did you think that if you can talk about it, do you think that Derek, you know, was the champion this year?
I love Derek. I love Derek. I had Derek in the pre-judging, but I still had Hadi in the pre-judging winning the side shots and the front shots. Derek destroyed everybody from the back.
Yes.
Nobody was beating him from the back. No. Hadi had a little bit more midsection control, especially in the lower part of his midsection, where Derek, I think, had a little issue going on in the lower part. Nothing against him. But the night show, it was very, very close, but I think Hadi did pull it off. I think he pulled it off. Neither that it matters.
Yeah.
But I believe he did squeak it out. Yeah.
And obviously, you know, it was such a close. It could have gone either way. Both are champions. Both. Hadi's just going to come back even hungrier, which is
yeah. I mean, he's already. I mean,
training already.
He went back home and put on the bandana and was good. They're going to be battling, dude, for the next couple of years. Yeah. I don't see. You know, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, if it's going to change, it's going to be between them back and forth," because Hani Rambod is, in my opinion, the best coach right now in the IFBB. You know, look what he's doing with C-Bum. And Chris had some issues preparing for this Olympia, tour this, tour that. And he still made it and came back. You know, Hani, I just got to give him, you know, I always shake his hand, but him from just what he's doing with these athletes at the highest level is just ridiculous. I think he has the most Olympia titles as a coach anyway, you know. So, yeah, them two are going to be battling for quite some time.
Hani now has 24 Mr.O titles, or well, Olympia titles overall. I think I forget how many of them are from the Open, but obviously a lot with Phil, Jay, Derek, Hadi. I mean, it was 22. Now it's 24. I know that for sure, and obviously, shout out to him. I mean, he's phenomenal. You know, there's no words to describe what he's done. His FS7 training is just unique. I mean, the way he brings champions out is phenomenal. And, you know, I do totally agree. I think Derek's back was just phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if I've seen a better back in a while. And they say shows are won from the back, but, you know, who knows? It was so close. I think either gentleman could have.
Well, you know, they say shows are won from the back, but I've seen a lot of shows where people had great backs. They say shows are won if you come in super condition, and that's not the case. You know what I mean? They want a mixture of both. Yeah. You could be off a little bit from the conditioning, but carry that size, the symmetry, the flow, the dense muscle, and be off a little bit on the conditioning, and you'll pull it out. You know what I'm saying? I think 2 years ago, it was all about conditioning. I mean, you come in peeled and shredded. Like when I came in Tampa against Ian, then I came to Texas even more peeled. That year, it was all about that. So it's crazy every year. We're trying to figure out what exactly are they looking for and what exactly where the sport is going to say, this is the direction we're going. So it's a little confusing right now.
Yeah. And whether you want to be in the middle between aesthetics, mass monster, do you want to go mass monster? Do you want to go aesthetics? I think that's, I wouldn't say the fun part of bodybuilding, because I'm sure that's not fun to decide which one to do.
Well, Derek got a mixture of both. Aesthetics, symmetry, flow, size. So do Hadi. You know what I mean? So, and also Samson. The only thing with Samson is bringing in that conditioning a little bit more. That's what hurts him.
And that's no knock on Samson, because once he gets that conditioning, it's just only second Olympia. I mean, once that dude gets his conditioning right, and with Milos he will. Ooh, this could be, and we're forgetting Nick Walker's still in that top 4, and Hunter and Andrew. I mean, it's going to be, bodybuilding has some good competition.
Oh yeah, they got some good up and now. Andrew Jack isn't that young. I think Andrew Jack is in his late 30s. Really? So you know what I mean. And he did say, once he wins the Olympia title, he was going to call it quits. But I mean, we always got to remember, as we get older, and a lot of these other competitors are younger, he just has to develop more back detail. Andrew, I think Andrew was much better at the Arnold. He was tighter at the Arnold, but once again, remember the Olympia. You're trying to get a balance of coming in. You come in too big is hard to keep condition, super condition. It's hard, but I think next year, Andrew, as long as he takes a little break and let his body rest up and come back, he'll win Texas. He'll be back in Olympia again. He could just sit out, do Texas, and he's going to win that. Who's going to beat him there?
Well, he doesn't even need to do Texas. He's top 5, so he's automatically qualified.
No, they took away top 5. It's only the top 3 now for the Olympia. So he has to requalify.
Wow, I didn't know that.
They did that this year. Like several, not even, I will say about 2 weeks prior to the Olympia, they made the announcement.
I wasn't even aware of that. Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, no, he'll be back. So
yeah.
So will Hunter. I mean, so will you. Did I just fortune tell the room? Yes, Phil, I feel it again. 2024 Orlando, Phil. Yes.
Listen. I believe it. You know what I mean? My coach thought I was crazy when we're coming into the season. Because I just signed up for the Masters just to do it, to see if I could get on the list, because I signed up for the Arnold last year. They denied me. So I was like, they're not going to take me for the Masters. So I told my wife, go ahead and, apply me for it. But I told my coach, I said, my main focus was Orlando. Once we found out about the Masters, he kept talking about the Masters. And I said, listen, I don't want to hear nothing about the Masters. My main focus is Orlando. We're going to win Orlando. I don't want to hear, we'll see how it goes, whatever no. With that mentality, I think is what brought me the championship, because in the past, I used to line up shows. If I didn't do well here, all right, we'll see how we do here. So if I really just focus on one show and say, this is the only show I'm doing for the year, I tend to really put everything I got on there. So that's my same mentality, is to come back better this year, because I know the Orlando is going to be much tougher, because a lot of people have to qualify now. You know what I mean? So I think the Orlando Pro is going to be much tougher. So I got to come in really lights out, because I already won it. So, but I got to come in lights out to defend it. So that's the first show we're gunning for, and we're going straight guns a-blazing. And I firmly believe I will pull it out.
Yes, sir. And mindset is king. And defending your throne, you shall. And you beat a stacked lineup this year. I mean, Jason Lowe, Mustafa, you beat
he was tough. Yeah, Mustafa was very tough.
Yep.
And social media was going crazy. Clahar got it. And I told my wife, I told my coach, I said, no, we got to come in better for the night show. I've been down this road with Ian. When everybody's going crazy, they were doing a vote, and I'm winning the vote by a mile. You know what I mean? And I said, this time we got to come in better. I had to come in a little tighter. You know what I mean? And we did. And I was on fire. And I just had to outstructure him. Hassan, muscle, pound for pound, the dude is a big boy. Big boy. So I had to do my best to outpose him and wear him out on stage, and just and that's what happened. But yeah, he's a big boy. Saw him at the Olympia, big boy, just a big boy.
And then obviously one of our guys who was on the podcast, Stanimal, really doing well, starting to get into his own in the open, and just a all-around hard class that you beat. So you are the champion. Now, final question for you, Phil. What is your biggest tip after everything you've seen and learned in the sport of bodybuilding for someone to enter into the sport of bodybuilding like you once were, sir?
My big tip is going to always be an old school tip, man. Don't forget where you came from.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people, when they start the sport, they're starting from nothing, and they're gradually building themselves up to be recognized. If it's just having a coach, getting your name out there, Instagram, whatever the case may be, you always got people helping to promote you, to help you to be great. Same thing as Nick Walker. When he first started, not so much. But as he went on, it came. So I tell people, don't forget where you come from. And with success, keep faith first, and don't ever change who you are. A lot of people, when they get success, they get caught up with the success, with everything. It could be money, drugs, whatever. So my thing is just never forget where you come from, and always keep that same mentality, and have a good set of people around you. If you have a good surroundings and people that it's not a yes man, and really tell you, listen, bro, this is the way it is. I don't think it's a good idea. That's what's going to make you the best person, the best bodybuilder in the world right there.
Damn straight. And, remember where you started from. And this is the underdog talk. Remember what it felt like to be that underdog, ladies and gentlemen. Phil, honestly, such a class act, man. I'm so impressed. And, I don't say this ever, honestly. One of the most fun podcasts I've done in a while, man. I'm really thrilled to have you on, talk with you, to see the spirit that you bring to bodybuilding and the realness you bring to bodybuilding as well. Now, before we go, sir, the floor is yours. Where can we find that Instagram, that social media? HD Muscle. What is that code? The floor is yours, big fella.
Well, the Team Clahar is the Instagram. Everybody come on over. Ask me any questions you want. Give me some shout outs. Honestly, tell you the truth, the Instagram and my fans has been one of the biggest reasons why I'm still around. You know what I mean? Meeting some pros in Romania, saying I brought them out of retirement. I met young bodybuilders up and coming, telling me that I inspire them. You're not going to see stuff like this, man. Dexter Jackson was the first one to do it, and then he ended at 50. So, my thing is, I don't know, man. I just keep it real, and everybody will say Phil never changes. That guy is 100% the same person he was years and years ago. HD Muscle, jump on there. It's Clahar, all caps. One of the best products out there. I spoke about it. I've been on it for several years now. That's part of my success is HD Muscle. And then, of course, I always want to give a shout out to Patty Clahar, the backbone of Team Clahar, because it is a team sport. I know a lot of people will have just their name, but at the end of the day, it is a team sport regarding people in your surroundings, family. They want to say bodybuilding isn't a team sport, but you do need a good team behind you. Trust me when I tell you, to be very successful. And also Evolving Vitality, my sponsor as well, is a TRT clinic made by retired vets. Very, very good spiritual men. And that's just about it, man.
Oh, yeah. And first person to use that code at HD Muscle, we'll do a buy one, get one free on HD Muscle. Send me your screenshot using that code, and you'll get a free HD Muscle supplement. Love HD Muscle. I think they're a great brand. Some high quality supplements. I saw they just came out with Nick's new pre-workout, which looks phenomenal.
Yeah. I see that he has a sauce he started now, so he's trying to battle Flavor Gang. That's going to be interesting.
Well, I think he is on Flavor Gang. I don't know. Either way, yeah.
No, he got his own sauce now. So he started his own Nick Walker sauce. So that's going to be interesting because Flavor Gang, they got some good stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see them.
They do. I mean, one more time, the Jamaican Tank. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video.
And also Structured Fitness Inc. If you're looking for coaching, anything, coaching, remote coaching, remote training. It's all on there. StructuredFitnessInc.com.
StructuredFitnessInc.com. Those links will be in the YouTube bio. I mean, guys, one more time, the Underdog and the Jamaican Tank